Assalamualaikum everyone, this is Nasir and welcome to Knowledge Run. So this video is about an Islamophobic act committed by an infidel in Sweden. We're going to discuss this incident in detail. We're going to discuss the pretext of such extremist people, their motive, and the causes of such incidents, the impacts and the solutions also. So stay focused and let's get started. Before discussing the incident, that is the main goal of this video today, I would like to explain what is Islamophobia. Well, there is a very comprehensive definition of Islamophobia. Islamophobia is an extreme fear of and hostility towards Islam and Muslims, which often leads to hate speech, hate crimes, as well as social and political discrimination. This is a very distressing kind of phenomena for Muslims that is happening in the world in this century. Well, definitely there are some reasons of Islamophobia, and there is a very long history of Islamophobia, but that is not the scope of this video today, and we're not going to discuss that today here. We're going to discuss just one manifestation of Islamophobia and just one kind of Islamophobic action. We're going to discuss a hate crime against the Muslim community, and that would be the burning of Quran in Europe. Here I have attached, well, there are numerous kinds of hate crimes against Muslim community, for example, killing such people, attacking the mosque, and persecuting Muslims, political and social discrimination, numerous kinds of hate crimes. For example, this right here on right, this is a Canadian Muslim family that was killed by a truck driver in 2021 in Canada. A truck driver ran over them and killed this family, and this was just an act of Islamophobia. Then this right here on the left, this is the Christchurch Mosque in New Zealand. A person who attacked this mosque and who attacked people and killed many people in this mosque in New Zealand. So these are the hate crimes against Muslim community in the world. This is very distressing for Muslim people, but we are compelled to study this because when you want to solve a problem, first you have to study this. So when I was preparing this lecture, I was very distressed, and I was not feeling good using such kind of words, that is burning Quran, desecrating Quran, na'uzubillah. But we have to study this because we want to solve these kind of issues. And when you want to solve some issue, you have to study about this. So today, the hate crime that we're going to focus, the hate crime of Islamophobia that we're going to focus is the burning of Quran in Europe. So this right here is the scope of this video today. We're going to discuss the incidents of Quran burning in Europe. Sadly, there are more than one incidence of Quran burning in the world. In 2019, an anti-Islamic group repeatedly burnt Quran in Norway. Then, a far-right extremist politician, Rasmus Paludan, who is the leader of some political parties, stormed course, burnt Quran in Copenhagen in 2019. Copenhagen is the capital of Denmark. Then in 2020, the Danish party once again stormed course, and the party leader Rasmus Paludan planned burning of Quran in Sweden. And in Sweden, this was known as 2020 Sweden riots because it started a series of riots where people were arrested and police vans were burnt, and all this happened in Sweden. And it all started just because of the prejudice of these people against Muslims, because they wanted to persecute Muslims psychologically, and they wanted to give stress to Muslims. Then in 2022, Rasmus Paludan once again declared a tour of Sweden, planning to visit cities and towns with Muslim majority with the intent of burning, na'uzubillah, burning copies of the Quran during the holy month of Ramadan. Now here, just see the evilness of this person, Rasmus Paludan. He decides to visit cities and towns with Muslim majority because he wanted to give anguish to this Muslim majority, and he wanted to give pain to this Muslim majority. And he planned all this, and he planned all the burning of Quran during the holy month of Ramadan. And this was known as 2022 Sweden riots. Now in 2023, a string of such incidents started. At the beginning of the year, Ramzuz Paludan set Quran on fire in front of Turkish embassy in Stockholm on January 21st, 2023, and again on January 27, 2023 in front of a mosque in Denmark. Then, in Stockholm, Quran was desecrated on June 28, 2023 when Muslims were celebrating their religious festival, that is Eid-ul, and it happened in front of a mosque. Then the ultra-nationalist group called Dansk, I don't know how to pronounce this, whatever this is, I do not even care to pronounce this. This group burned the Holy Quran in front of Iraq's embassy in Copenhagen on July 21st, 2023 as a protest against those people who were protesting against the burning of Quran. So this was their type of showing respect and support to this person who burnt Quran in front of the mosque during Eid-ul-Adha. Then two protesters burned Quran outside Iraqi embassy in Denmark on July 24, 2023. So all these incidents happened in Sweden and Denmark mainly. And this is very disturbing for Muslims, and now Muslims should realize that they should do something. They should take some concrete steps to prevent all this and to prevent such kind of incidents in Europe. And the latest incident of desecration of Quran that sent a wave of torment in Muslim Ummah happened in Sweden on Eid-ul-Adha. In Stockholm, Quran was desecrated on June 28, 2023 when Muslims were celebrating Eid-ul-Adha. Two Christian Iraqi refugees burned several pages of the book outside Central Mosque. They were named Momika and Najab. These two people were the perpetrator. They desecrated Quran in presence of Swedish police. And you would be surprised to see that they were permitted and protected by Swedish police. Now this is the irony, this is the main issue of Sweden in Europe today, that Sweden allows the burning of Quran publicly. The constitution of Sweden, the police of Sweden allows the burning of Quran, na'uzubillah, the burning of Quran publicly, because they believe that this is a kind of protest, and they believe that they promote the freedom of expression and freedom of speech in the world, and this is allowed because they believe that this is a kind of protest. So the desecration of Quran in Sweden is covered under the curtain of freedom of expression. So this is happening in Sweden, but this is distressing for Muslims, this is insulting, this is humiliating, and this is a kind of anguish for Muslim Ummah. So this was the incident that happened in Sweden on June 28, 2023, and we would discuss this incident in detail today. So now we have studied that in Sweden, extremist people are burning Quran as a protest against Islam and Muslims. But what is their pretext of such kind of protest? What do they believe, and with what arguments they support their such kind of actions? Let's study that. Well, viewers, they say that we are doing this because we are free to express. They use the law of freedom of expression as an excuse for committing such kind of actions against a religious community, against the second largest religious community of the world. The government of Denmark and Sweden, they also believe so, and they also defend themselves with this so-called law of freedom of expression. Denmark and Sweden have said that they deplore the burning of the Quran, but they cannot prevent it under rules protecting free speech. This was the reaction of Denmark and Sweden on such kind of incidents. They said that yes, we deplore this, we do not like this is not right, but we cannot prevent this because this is freedom of expression. This is their excuse and this is their pretext. Now this is very illogical and this is very, very distressing, and this is controversial, and we would discuss that in future. Then the Prime Minister of Sweden, Ulf Kristersson, he said, in a free country like Sweden, you have a great deal of freedom, but with the great degree of freedom comes a great degree of responsibility. Now here, once again, he's trying to defend the people of Sweden, that they practice freedom of expression and we promote freedom of expression, and this is nothing but just freedom of expression. And yes, we deplore it, we do not like it. The government of Denmark and Sweden, they are admitting that we do not like it, but we cannot prevent it. We are helpless here because the law allows them to do this. This is their pretext, and they have such a pathetic and such a controversial kind of law that allows people to hurt a very big community of the world, that allows people to hurt the sentiments of the people, and that allows people to incite violence in the world. And one more thing that all of you would be surprised to know, that Swedish government cannot prevent such kind of actions because it is the decision of Swedish police. The decision is up to Swedish police. People make their request of conducting such kind of protest to police department, and it is the police who decides that whether the person should be allowed to conduct this protest or not. The decision is up to police, and this is what Ulf Kristersson said right after such kind of incidents. He said that the government cannot prevent such kind of incidents because the decision is up to the police. It is the police who decides. Then Swedish law and police permit protests against Islam and burning of Quran as an expression of hatred against Muslims. This is the irony of this so-called law of Sweden. This is very disturbing to know that these protests against Muslims are planned by protesters but authorized and protected by the police Sweden. The protest of this person, Salvan Momika, who burned and who desecrated Quran in front of the mosque at the festival of Eid-ul, he was protected by police at the time. He did this, he committed this sin amid police, and he was protected by police at the time. Ulf Kristersson said that more requests had been filed with police for permission to hold protests where desecration of Quran was planned. Then Ulf Kristersson went on saying that if they are granted, we are going to face some days where there is a clear risk of something serious happening. Now here, just note this thing, that the Prime Minister of Sweden is admitting that yes, this is disturbing, this is causing violence in the world, but they are doing nothing to revise such laws. Police approved the request of a Muslim man who applied for permission to stage a protest outside Israeli embassy in which he said he intended to burn the Torah and the Bible. Now this is something that a Muslim man did just to test this freedom of expression law of Sweden government and Sweden police. He did this and he wanted to test that if this is prejudice against Muslim, or Sweden is excluding Muslims, or if they are indifferent towards all the religious communities of the world. So he made a request. He made a request to stage a protest outside Israeli embassy, and he showed some intentions to burn the Torah and the Bible, and you would be surprised to know that the person was allowed to do this. Now, this is the so-called law of freedom of expression of Sweden. Muslim men was allowed to burn Torah and the Bible. Now, this shows that the Sweden government is indifferent towards the sentiments of different religious communities of the world. But then viewers, that Muslim man was not a heartless person, and he said that he just wanted to test that if this is just prejudice against Muslims or this is a kind of freedom of expression law. He just wanted to test this. He made a request, but then in practical he did not burn the Torah and the Bible, and he stepped back. So this is actually the main pretext of anti-Islam protest in Sweden. They say that we are doing nothing, but we are just practicing the freedom of expression. And the government of Denmark and Sweden, they also defend such kind of incidents by saying that this is just freedom of expression. So what is the motive of such extremist people behind the incidents of Nausbillah desecration of Quran in Sweden and Europe? What do they want? And what is their goal? What do they want to achieve with these kind of incidents of desecration of Quran in Sweden? Why they want to incite Muslims in Europe and the other part of the world? Well, their main goal is de-Islamization of West. Rasmus Paludan and Geert Wilders, these are two politicians. Rasmus Paludan is from Denmark and Geert Wilders, he is a politician of Netherlands. These two people, they are far-right politicians, they are extremists, and their philosophy is anti-Islamic. They want a ban on Quran as well as on immigration of Muslims to the Western world. They want de-Islamization of West because they believe that Islam is savage, Islam is violent, and they want de-Islamization of West. Geert Wilders founded an anti-immigration party for freedom, and he wants all the Muslims who are living in Europe or in western part of the world out of that part of the world. He wants ban on building Muslims in West, immigration of Muslims to West, and he wants ban on printing of Quran in the West. He wants ban on all these things. So this is discriminatory towards the Muslim community of the world. Geert Wilders says Islam is not a religion, it is an ideology, Nauzubillah, the ideology of a retarded culture. So this is the motive of such extremist people behind the incidents of desecration of Quran in Sweden and other parts of the world, or I should say Europe. They want to distress all the Muslims in Europe, and they want to torture all the Muslims of Europe because they want prevention of Muslims coming to Europe. They do not want Muslims to Europe, so they say they do such kind of acts so that Muslims leave their land. They say that you should go back to the place where you have come from. So this is the motive behind the incidents of desecration of Quran in Sweden. Now we would discuss the causes of desecration of Quran in Sweden and other parts of the world. I have divided these causes into three. We would study the political causes, the ambiguities in international law, and the social causes also. Starting with the political causes. Well, one of the political cause of such kind of Islamophobic incidents in the world is the rise of populist leaders such as Rasmus Paludan and Geert Wilders. Well, viewers, these two leaders are populist, and well, this is a kind of political tactic that leaders try to incite the sentiments of their people just to earn their support. So these two leaders, Rasmus Paludan and Geert Wilders, these two leaders are Islamophobic, and they are using this Islamophobia to earn the support of their people. They speak violently against Muslims because they want to earn the support of anti-Islamic groups, and they want to earn this fame and their support in their political campaign. So this is one of the cause political cause. Now, remember this thing that whenever whenever a development happens in the world, it definitely has some kind of political cause and some kind of backstage political benefit for some people. So this Islamophobia and desecration of Quran in the world also has some political benefits for some people of the world, and there is definitely politics involved in this incident. Then another very important political cause of this desecration of Quran in Sweden. Well, we all know that Sweden wants to join NATO, and Sweden was negotiating with Turkey for the NATO's membership because Turkey was the only member of NATO that was opposing the Sweden's membership of NATO. Turkey did not want Sweden to join NATO, and at the beginning of 2023, Sweden and Turkey were negotiating over this issue. Then Rasmus Paludan set Quran on fire in front of Turkish embassy in Stockholm on January 21st, 2023. This thing destroyed everything. All the negotiations are halted now. This thing infuriated the Prime Minister of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, and Turkish Prime Minister said on February 1st, 2023, when Rasmus Paludan set Quran on fire in front of Turkish embassy in Stockholm, he said, "Sweden, don't even bother. As long as you allow my holy book, the Quran, to be burned and torn, and you do so together with your security forces, we will not say yes to your entry into NATO." So this was one of the political causes of desecration of Quran in Sweden. There are some political issues between Turkey and Sweden. Then Prime Minister of Kristersson accuses Russia of starting a disinformation campaign in which the Prime Minister of Kristersson accuses that Russia is attempting to damage the country's image by implying it supported the burnings. Prime Minister of Kristersson said that Russia does not want the expansion of NATO, and this is the reason that it has started a disinformation campaign. And Russia is saying that Sweden supports these kind of burnings. And the Prime Minister, he is insinuating that Russia is trying to create confusion between Turkey and Sweden, and Russia is trying to malign the image of Sweden in the world. So these are all the political causes. Sweden wants the membership of NATO. Rasmus Paludan committed such kind of act in Sweden, and there are populist leaders and all this. These were the political causes. I hope you all got this. Then there is another cause of desecration of Quran in Sweden and other parts of the world, that is the ambiguities in international law. We all know that there is no defined limit of freedom of expression law. The international law just grants the law of freedom of expression to the people of the world, but it does not define any limits, and especially in Sweden, there is no limit of freedom of expression. And in 1970, the Swedish court scrapped the blasphemy law, and now people are committing such kind of acts. So this is the cause of desecration of Quran. People are allowed to do this, and there are ambiguities in international law. Whatever they do, they say that we are just practicing the freedom of expression, and there is no one to stop them. There is no one to take punitive measures against them, because this is not defined illegal in international law. There are ambiguities in international law, and the international society, and especially the Sweden, these two entities are lacking the ability to balance between the principle of freedom of expression and the principles of promoting, of protecting minorities in a state. Then another cause, now we're going to discuss the social causes. Well, viewers, people are just trying to incite the Muslims. People are incited by the anti-Islam groups. These people actually commit such kind of desecration of Quran because they want Muslims out of Europe. They do not want Muslim in their society. They want ban on Quran. They want ban on immigration of Muslims to Western world. So this is the reason that they are committing such kind of acts. They do not want Muslims there, and they want to torture Muslim. They want to torture Muslim to such an extent that Muslims leave their land and Muslims leave the western part of the world. This is their aim, this is their goal. They do all this to torture Muslims. So these were the causes of desecration of Quran in Sweden and other parts of the world. Now we're going to study the impacts of incidents of desecration of Quran in the world. So starting with the impacts of such incidents on Sweden. Well, these incidents are damaging the image of Sweden in the world. We all know that Sweden is a secular country. Now it is seen as an anti-Islamic country in the world. The country has failed in protecting the rights of minorities in the name of freedom of expression. The country says that we promote freedom of expression, so we cannot prevent the burning of Quran. So we can say that yes, this country has failed in protecting the rights of minorities because Muslims are a minority there. They are being persecuted psychologically, and Sweden is unable to protect the rights of minorities. And we all know that the freedom of religion is one of the rights of humans by the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. But Sweden has failed in protecting the rights of minorities in the name of freedom of expression. The country is unable to differentiate between the freedom of expression and hate crime, and this is conspicuously a hate crime. Then there is a security threat in Sweden after a string of such kind of incidents. Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson said in an interview, "I'm extremely worried about what it could lead to." These incidents, we all know that these incidents can trigger religious riots in Sweden. I mean, a person is burning Quran in front of Muslim people, then Muslims would retaliate, and this thing can trigger religious riots in Sweden. After such kind of this incident, a Muslim man sought permission for burning the Torah and Bible in front of the Israeli embassy. Well, this person, alhamdulillah, he was a Muslim, and Muslims do not commit such kind of crimes because this is a crime for Muslims. Allah does not allow Muslims to burn any religious book, and Allah does not allow Muslims to pass derogatory remarks for any religion. So he was a Muslim man, and he did not intend to burn the religious books. Actually, he just wanted to test the freedom of expression law of Sweden. But this thing very clearly gives an idea that the burning of Quran can trigger religious riots in Sweden. Today, Quran is being burnt in Sweden. Then there might be incidents of burning some other religious books in the world. So this can give way to a heinous crime. This can open a way to a hate crime. And we all know that Sweden has already faced riots in 2020 and 2022. So Sweden is now facing a security threat due to these incidents. Then we all know that the tensions are increased in Ankara-Stockholm relations. We all know that Sweden applied for the membership of NATO in 2022, and Turkey was the only member to oppose the entry of Sweden in NATO. Now, a resident of Sweden has committed such kind of sin, and the Prime Minister of Turkey is infuriated, and he said, I've read out this earlier also. He said, Sweden, don't even bother as long as you allow my holy book, the Quran, to be burned and torn, and you do so together with your security forces. We will not say yes to your entry into NATO. Now Sweden would face further delay in its entry in NATO, and these incidents would increase tensions in Ankara-Stockholm relations. Then we have witnessed protests in Muslim countries. Muslim countries such as Turkey, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Iraq, Iran are protesting the recent string of Quran desecration in Europe. In Baghdad, the Swedish embassy was stormed and burned. Another impact, there would be increased tensions between Muslim countries in Europe now. We have studied it already, that Iraqi government has cut diplomatic ties with Sweden and ousted Swedish ambassador from the country. So these are all the impacts of incidents of desecration of Quran, and these are negative impacts. I mean, such kind of heinous crime can definitely not create a positive impact. Another impact of such heinous crimes in the world, the desecration of Quran in the world raises a question on the law of freedom of expression. These incidents have put the principle of freedom of expression on a test. We all know that there are no limits of freedom of expression, no defined limits of freedom of expression, and it is the ambiguity of this law that has caused such kind of heinous crimes in the world. Hate crimes are being covered by the principle of freedom of expression, and these incidents have raised a question on this law of freedom of expression. Then another impact, these incidents are provoking Muslim sentiments, and this provocation of Muslim sentiments can trigger violence in the world. We all know that Islam is the second largest religious community and has 1.8 billion followers in the world. So today, Muslims are being provoked by these anti-Islamic people. And Muslim countries have started protests. Muslim sentiments are being hurt, which could trigger violence in the world. And this thing would disturb global peace. I mean, these infidel people are inciting Muslims. They are testing the threshold of the tolerance of Muslims, and it can trigger violence in the world. The international society, the international leaders and authorities should ponder upon this, that these things can trigger a war. These things can trigger violence in the world. This is an act of provocation of Muslim sentiments. Then another impact, this is promoting terrorism in the world. This was an act of terrorism, and it would encourage other extremists to execute such acts against different religious communities. It will promote terrorism against the sentiments of religious communities, and it would widen the bridge between different religious communities of the world. Today, Quran is being burned, and if we do not stop such kind of heinous crimes, tomorrow some other religious book would face such kind of things in the world. So this would promote terrorism, and this heinous crime is creating a very negative impact on the world. This is disturbing the peace of the world. Then this is psychological persecution of minorities. Physical as well as psychological protection of minority is the duty of a state. And today, Sweden, in the name of freedom of expression, persecuting Muslims psychologically. And this is the suppression of rights of minorities in the world. And we all know that United Nations Declaration of Human Rights grants some human rights for minorities also. Then the last and the most important impact of desecration of Quran in the world: clash of civilizations. Such kind of incidents are triggering clash of civilizations. The burning of Quran was permitted by Sweden for this. Then a Muslim man, to test the freedom of expression law of Sweden, sought permission for burning the Torah and Bible in front of the Israeli embassy. Now here this Muslim man then backed off from the burning of Torah and Bible, and he did not intend to do this. Actually, he was just trying to test the freedom of expression law. But this thing gives a clear idea that such kind of heinous crimes are triggering and do have the potential to trigger the clash of civilizations. It can trigger clash of two civilizations, that is Christians and Muslims. So these things do not have a good impact. These things have a very negative and bad impact, and the international authorities and international society should prevent such kind of incidents in the world. Now, the way forward to prevent such incidents in the future. First of all, Muslim nations should get united and demand action from Sweden against the Quran burning and against such controversial laws of freedom of expression that caused such kind of Quran incidents of Quran burning. And Muslim nations should definitely conduct protests against Sweden to express their rage. Muslim nations should demand revision of the laws permitting anti-Islamic protesters of desecrating Quran. Then Muslim nations should present a bill in United Nations regarding the honor of not only Quran, but regarding the honor of all the religious books in the world. Because we are human, and we should honor humanity first of all, and we should honor all the religious books of the world. And this is what Muslims are being taught, and this is what Allah teaches us, and this is what Prophet Muhammad taught us, that we should respect all other religions, all the religions of the world, and we should not pass any derogatory comments, or we should not commit such kind of heinous crimes against any religion. We should respect the freedom of religion, and this is what Prophet Muhammad did. He did not force anyone to change its religion, and he never passed any derogatory comments against anybody's religion. So this is what Muslim nations should do, that they should present a bill in United Nations, and they should present a resolution in United Nations regarding the honor of religious books in the world, and they should make some law, some international law regarding the honor of religious books in the world. Then Organization of Islamic Countries, that is OIC, should take a firm stance against Sweden and other countries not taking actions against such incidents. OIC should pressurize Sweden to take actions against such infidels. Then Turkey should continue its stance of opposing the NATO membership of Sweden, and Turkey can play a very major role here, because the United States also wants the expansion of NATO membership in the world. And here Turkey has leverage in its hand, and Turkey can play its role. Turkey should continue its stance of opposing the NATO membership of Sweden, and Turkey should pressurize Sweden to make some legislation against the desecration of any religious book in the world. Turkey should use this leverage, and Turkey should put this demand in front of Sweden if Sweden wants membership of NATO. And Turkey is very strong here because US also wants the membership of Sweden's membership of NATO, and these countries cannot earn the membership of NATO unless Turkey agrees. Then the OPEC can pressurize Europe to condemn Sweden's controversial freedom of expression law, and Muslim countries can get united, and Muslim countries should get united and demand action from Sweden against the Quran burning. And all the scholars now suggest that now Muslim nations should play a role, and now Muslim nations should realize that this is the time to take actions against such heinous incidents in the world, and we should not delay these actions, and we should not just rest, and we should not just stay quiet. We should now react, and we should show the fury. So this is the end of this video today. I hope that everything is clear now. We have analyzed the incident of desecration of Quran in Sweden, and we have studied this in detail. I hope that everything is clear. Thank you for today, and Allah Hafiz for today. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel Knowledge Realm.